I always hoped that I would never be in that situation, but I was in that situation. I was in a situation where I was losing guys, and then you go out, and then you go again, and then you go again. But when you traded rounds with the enemy in a fight, you've been to Fallujah and you're street to street, you're clearing, you've been to a Marjah, you've been to a Ramadi, where you could see the eyes of your enemy. There's a whole different level of awareness, and man, that impacted me. Yeah. He's talking about losing his best friends. Boom, they're gone, watching them blow up, watching them disappear, and he would tell us, this is what you need to know, because it doesn't stop there. You don't go home with that guy. You pick his body up, what pieces are left, you put them in a bag, your friend, and then tomorrow you go on the next mission. When you can see what one man will do to another man, and you watch that, it changes you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He spent just shy of 11 years on active duty as 0300 Infantry in the United States Marine Corps. He received a NAM with a V for his actions in Afghanistan. He's the host of Choices Not Chances podcast, which we're going to talk about. He's the author of an amazing book called Lions of Marjah, which we're for sure going to dig way into. He is the real Mr. Rogers without the shoe change and lame sweater. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Ryan Rogers.
Thanks, man. It's an honor, privilege to be here.
It's likewise having you here. I appreciate you taking the time multiple times to come on the show, and I'm really looking forward to digging into the book and just getting your story and hearing all of the different things that you've gone through on behalf of this great nation. So first things first. So what's the last full book that you read?
The last full book, I actually just finished a book last night by Jared Pruitt called It'll Buff Out. And he was a Marine, took some damage. He was in the Battle of Marjah in the early days of that, and really went through it. He really went through it with some of the guys. And he was a junior Marine at the time. And, sometimes being a junior Marine, you can miss a lot of the whys. Why am I doing this, or what am I doing? You're being told orders and you execute. That's what you do,
Your job is not to think almost.
No, instant obedience to orders. Yeah. And that's why we're good. In my later life, when I led a squad, whatever, 4 or 5 years after he was in Ramadi, I tried to always tell my guys why. So sometimes that can get lost in the mix, but the book is great, and the way he does it is an account of tells a story about Ramadi, and then the next chapter will be a short chapter flipped to when recently after he got out, he had a stroke and started having some other complications from TBI, and he got blown up several times, or was in the vicinity of being blown up several times in that one deployment. So it gives a look at the past and then the now of the different things he faced or struggles that he went through. But it was a well put together book.
What's the single most poignant takeaway that you took from it?
I like that he is exposing what he's going through post combat and post war. Because a lot of people don't see that. And maybe it resonates with me a little bit more because I also have a significant TBI, and I fought retirement. They wanted to retire me, fought them, and then 18 months after I retire, I start having these grand mal seizures, really in my sleep, and they can't really figure it out. They think that it's related to TBI, and we're digging into that. But that hit home to me because it's like a lot of people see what you did, and they hear what you did in these war stories, and you're, beat your chest as a prideful alpha male Marine, and then you have these things that are beyond your control that come from that life that you lived, and a lot of people just don't see that back end. And so, all the veterans of the last 20-some years of war, there's a bunch of them that are still dealing with that, and not even psychological, but some things that happen to their brain or to their body physically that they have no control over. And so, you know, I like the fact that he exposed some of that.
Yeah, no, it's good. There needs to be more of that for sure. On your show, do you have a favorite guest that you've interviewed?
Oh man, you gonna do that to me?
Yeah, I got to do it.
Gosh.
All right. So, well, not necessarily the guest, but a favorite interview that you've done for the sake of the interview, I guess, not so much just the guest, but.
Yes, I'll say I just recorded one that I'm really excited to get out. But of the ones that have aired, I had, I have a bunch of them. I had Nick Lavery on, and he has an amazing story of tenacity and perseverance and of resilience. And we need that. This nation will be weak if we are not resilient. And so to put somebody out there that has gone above and beyond for this country, lost part of his body for this country, and to continue to still have a positive impact, still to still serve, you know, in the face of that adversity that no doubt struggles with every day. It might not look like it, but there's a loss there that can't be, you know, given back. And so I really appreciated him coming on and, you know, being transparent with his story to show guys like, hey, yes, you can be hurt, but you can still be a positive influence to the people in your sphere of influence. So I like that one.
Amen on that, for sure. What are the two key components for canine success? That's effective training and proper nutrition. Fueled by Team Dog brings those two components to your family and best friend. The perfect nutritional balance that results in a higher mental acuity, energy, overall vitality, and even an improved appearance. Every product you will find in my company's store was born from the battlefield and not from the boardroom. Let my life's work help you become your dog's hero. Foreign policy-wise, as somebody who has got their hands dirty for Uncle Sam, what is your take on, specifically right now, because it's pretty relevant, our involvement with both Ukraine and Israel? What do you think?
Definitely two different answers for me. Ukraine is hard for me. You know, maybe I don't know enough. I know they've always been a very corrupt country. And I know that, I don't know, it seems to be that we're sending hundreds of thousands, millions, more than that, billions of dollars to a place. And what worries me is the oversight on where that money's used at. I would like to think that it's being used properly. And I would like to think that it's good, because if I can send you ammunition that's sitting in a warehouse, and if I can send you support that really isn't affecting my bottom line because I'm replenishing weapons at the cyclic rate for the next, you know, evolution, then it keeps American Sons of Liberty out of the way of hostile intent, you know, from Russia and I like that. I don't want to see my friends go over there and fight for something that they don't believe in or that I don't believe in. But ultimately that's on them, right? That they're going to do what they want. But Ukraine bothers me a little bit, man. It bothers me because I don't know enough. I like the fact that we're not fighting that war. I like the fact that we're not appeasing Putin. I wrote a paper in my in my college, for my college final, called The Appeasement of Putin. And you look at 20 years of appeasement. You look at people not holding him accountable for violating weapons treaties and using Novichok agents on his own people. And he's done these things over and over and over and locked up his opposition. I don't like that. And if that goes too far, if that's appeased too long, I mean, we can look at the history of appeasement and see where we go. We know where that ends. And so I'm glad we're not appeasing. I just think we need to be very critical about how we go about this. You don't want to tiptoe into World War III. That's what I don't want to do. And I hope the adults in the room are talking about that. And that goes for Israel and the Gaza situation as well. On that end, I believe in it. I believe they need to wipe Hamas off of the Gaza Strip, and whoever doesn't want to leave, I hope they kill him. And I feel that way because we were already in this. We were in this day one when a bunch of American citizens were captured from a festival of life. When you took Americans, you involved America. And I hope we come and get you where you sleep. That's the way I feel about that. A lot of people don't feel that way. We don't, they want a ceasefire and they want this, but on 9/12/2001, nobody was telling us shit.
Yeah.
Shock and awe is what we called it.
Yeah.
And then we destroyed people with weapons that we named after a religion.
Yeah.
That's what they need to do. This has to be stopped, because if they don't do it, they will continue to have that. And then you have a bunch of people saying from the river to the sea. You're talking about exterminating the Jewish race of people. They need to unleash the hand of God on you.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about it.
No, it's good insight. I appreciate it.
I don't like that our tax dollars are shooting at our tax dollars.
Agreed. Yeah.
But if we don't have boots on the ground looking for Americans, I'd be offended.
Yeah. For me, the biggest thing in both cases is an accountability aspect, is that if you're taking taxpayers' money and supporting anything, there should be more of a say of said taxpayer than just who's been put in office by them, because, to me, it's not always an accurate representation of who they're responsible for representing, and many times it's the exact opposite of that. It's like, there's no thought considered as to what the people that put you in office think about what you're doing, and that shit drives me nuts. But on a lighter note, what do you do to maintain your beard, and does the carpet match the curtains?
Well, if there was a carpet.
All right.
You feel me? Kind of like a tile floor down there.
You're a Manscaped guy.
Yeah, I'm a Manscaped. I'm the Lawnmower 4.0 fella.
Sponsor of the show.
Yes.
Amen. Do you do anything to it? You fuck with it?
Beard?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I got a pick. I pick
a bunch of shit in it?
I got some beard balm. Yeah.
You do the whole thing? I
do
shit.
the whole thing. I do the whole thing.
I don't do much with mine. I mean, I trim it, but yeah,
it just grows in epic. And you don't have to. That's where it's at.
True. That's true. I wouldn't know about that. What's your normal morning routine on a day that you're in town?
When I'm home, I'm very, very family man, heavily involved with my kids. And so, my wife works, so we get up about the same time. She's getting ready. I get ready. And then she gets my oldest off to school, and then I get the two younger ones. I take them to school. And then I come back. I do a meditation. I go out back. I don't have any special, no special routine. I go out back and I have a pool. I have a pool box. I don't have a pool, but I used to. I brought the box for storage, and I just kind of sit up on it in the backyard. I try to do some meditative breathing, some belly breathing, and it doesn't last long. Maybe 20 minutes. I just try to really clear my head and think about what I have to do for the day, for the week, for the month. And then I always try to come in, and I always try to do an hour of reading. I try to do an hour of writing, depending on what's on my plate. So that's the way I try to start out that first 2.5 hours after the kids get to school. Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask how old your kids are?
Yep. I got 11, I got 9, and I got 8.
Yeah. And what does your wife do for a living, if you don't mind?
She's a hearing aid specialist. She works at a hearing aid office, which helps me out.
Yeah.
Because,
Is your hearing pretty fucked?
Yeah. That's one of the big reasons why they looked at retiring me at the end. Was I was in I had a seat to ANS for MARSOC, and I got called a couple of days before. They said, "Hey, you failed the hearing thing on your S&W physical. You got to go see this lady." I just thought they were going to beep and reset my baseline, so I wasn't pressed, And I went in there, and they did not do the beeps. They did a series of tests where they read words, and they were basically showing me that I was communicating by reading lips, essentially. Yeah. And so that set me into a 16-week program to make sure my brain was okay, because both my eardrums, they figured out, were ruptured after that appointment. And then that 16-week program found, things in my brain. Yeah. So,
damn. Where are you originally from?
Ohio.
What part?
Like South Central, below Columbus, maybe 45 minutes. Cornfield, small place.
Oh, okay. Browns or Bengals?
Bengals.
Yeah. Does it matter? I mean,
it does to me because I'm not an NFL guy.
Yeah.
But my brother was a teacher and a football coach at Athens High School where Joe Burrow went.
Oh, nice.
He taught him in middle school and coached him, moved up to high school, was assistant coach and a teacher for him. And so I have watched that kid since his junior year, senior year of high school.
Yeah.
And so I have that personal, once he got in the NFL and got to the team that I used to cheer for, I was like, okay, I gotta get in it.
Rock and roll. Siblings growing up?
Yep. So I have a bunch more now, but from the first litter, it was me and 3 other boys, me and 3 other boys. I was one of 4 boys. I was the second of 4 boys. And then, later in life, my dad had another litter of 3 and adopted a son.
Yeah.
And so there's I'm one of 8, I guess now, or one of 7, something like that.
How old were you when your dad remarried and started having other kids? I
was in the Marine Corps.
Oh, okay. So you guys didn't grow up together?
No, I'm still close with them. We have a family's everything where I come from.
Yeah.
And so I don't talk to them probably, obviously not as much as I should. They're like 16, 14, 13 in that range.
Yeah.
And so I got 2 sisters and a brother from that. And then I have my stepbrother, Caden, who's in New York. Working. So
the 3 other boys that you grew up with, what was childhood like being 2 of 4 boys and growing up in small town Ohio?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm never a guy that say I went without. My family always figured it out. No matter what situation they were in, my parents figured it out. And so John is my older brother. He's awesome. I look up to him still as one of my heroes. He's awesome. He towed the straight line, and I veered. You know what I mean? So I probably took a lot of eyes and focus, off of him because of my the way I was. But then I had Lucas is the next one down from me, and then Tyler was the baby.
Yeah.
And they're all very successful human beings.
Any of them join the military?
So Lucas was in the National Guard. He did a pump to Kandahar. I believe it was Kandahar. And then he did some White House airspace security.
Oh, cool.
He had something to do with Patriot-style missiles, like air defense. So, but he was in, which is cool, man, because when he came home from Afghanistan, it was different. And he knew it. I'm like, okay, now we're on a different level of understanding.
Yeah.
And so that's been cool.
Yeah. Did you play any sports growing up?
Yeah, probably all of them.
You excel at anyone in particular?
Baseball was probably my best one. I was decent at wrestling as well, but baseball was kind of where my passion was. I played football in high school too, and I started and I was decent, but it was never going to, go past that. Baseball, I could throw pretty fast as a junior, somewhere 89, 90 miles an hour, something like that.
No shit.
Yeah. And so, control was a problem, but
so you were a wild thing from Major League.
Well, I don't know about that. He threw much faster, but yeah.
He was all over the place till he had glasses, right?
Yeah. Maybe that was my issue.
Yeah. Did you ever throw a grenade in combat?
I did not personally throw a grenade.
Well, ain't that a waste? Waste of an arm, huh? God damn it.
It's a lot heavier, though.
Yeah. No, I know it. It's a different throw for sure. Were there any significant events that took place in your childhood that really were super impactful? Obviously, everybody's childhood has different things, but was there something that stands out in particular that, whether it was traumatic or exciting or whatever, that really kind of stands out as being the most impactful?
I think 9/11.
How old were you when that happened?
I was a sophomore in high school. Before that, man, like I said, I had a good childhood. My parents were protective, although they let us go get, they were cautiously cautious, but they would let us mess up. But so that was good. But probably a lot of the lessons or the big impactful things were when people got in trouble for one time my brother got in trouble for something I did and I didn't do anything about it. So it crushed me. And I said, I'll never make that mistake again,
Yeah.
So, and my brother didn't say shit.
Yeah.
He just took it.
Yeah.
Looking out for me. So that was a huge thing. And then, we were in religion was a big thing when I was growing up, which, I fought with for the last, since I left home, I fought with that. And especially going over and doing some of this stuff, religion has had a profound impact on at least my foundation as a person. You know, so, and we hunted, man. That's what I did. We hunted, we fished, we were outside. My dad trapped. I mean, we hunted everything from rabbits to elk, you know.
What did your dad do for a living?
He's an entrepreneur. He owns his own company. He has a couple different things. Has an online auction company. People go on, they get a bidder number, they bid on, you know, he's got online auctions. He's also an in-person auctioneer. He's the regional auctioneer for Whitetails Unlimited in like Ohio and a couple other places. But he's also in real estate, so he also sells real estate. He's a hustler. He's a legal hustler.
Yeah,
that's what I refer to him as.
Yeah,
so.
That's good stuff. Was 9/11 your motivation to serve?
Yeah, it switched me.
Yeah,
I was baseball. I was gonna try to get on with Wright State up in Dayton, and I think I threw hard enough and could do well enough to do that. But
So walk me through the mentality of the day that happened. What was going through your mind?
I was in school, and they wheeled in a teacher wheeled in like a cart TV. You remember, a little TV set up on a little cart. They wheel it in and plug it in, and when they plugged it in, the first tower had already been hit. I believe the second tower had already been hit, and so they were just burning. We're, I don't know, you're 15 or 14, whatever you are, and you're looking at it, trying to make sense of it, trying to, and if you remember the live footage from TV that day, there were anchors cussing and, dropping the F-bomb. And so you knew that something was different. And all these different things, were coming in. And when you see your own countrymen and women jumping out of a building, it changed me, and holding their skirts down to have some sense of humanity on the way down and respect somehow. And instantly there was something inside my gut that just turned, and it said, you're going this way,
Yeah.
So
from that day forward, was it, first of all, it's a powerful testimony. It's, I hate to use the word interesting or neat or special to hear you go through that mentality, but you can feel the emotion.
I still have it to this day.
That's what I mean. Like you can feel it just hearing you talk about it, which is I guess an honor to experience it. From that day forward, was it the Marine Corps right away, or did you kind of go back and forth as to what you wanted to do and how you wanted to do it?
Yeah, there was a Marine Corps recruiter always at my school, always, and I didn't look anywhere else. I wanted to be a Marine, and I don't know where that came from other than I liked the blues. I wanted to do the hardest thing, I wanted to be with the best. And so it was 2004 when I graduated high school. And there were bad things going on. And I knew that I thought that if I get to the Marines are going to put me there. That's first to fight, first to serve. That's their slogan. So it took me a couple years after enlisting to get where I wanted to be, but I got there.
Yeah. Did you go in right after high school?
Yeah, I went on an elk hunt in September with my dad, and it's kind of like a graduation present. Went out with the bow. Yeah. And right after I got back from that trip, it was September 27th, I shipped, and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to take a second to talk about something near and dear to my heart, and that is a staunch supporter of this podcast, which is Bub's Naturals. The hat sitting in front of me here on our coffee table here in the studio belonged to Glenn Doherty. His nickname was Bub. I did 2 platoons with him, and his childhood best friend and another colleague of theirs, Sean is the best friend, TJ is their colleague, started Bub's Naturals, which is a collagen and MCT oil company in Bub's or Glenn's honor. And, for me, it's an absolute honor to be sponsored by and working with a company that, was started in the honor of one of my closest friends and a guy that I went to war with. And, the Bubs brand is not only super quality, collagen powder as well as MCT oil powder, but they also give back to the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. They donate proceeds from their product sales to the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation, which, to me just furthers, the mission set on Veterans Day. They give 100% back. So I do believe it's the best collagen on the planet. I like to mix it in with morning coffee. The MCT oil powder, the same thing. Mixes in very easy. It tastes great, and it just kind of adds everything that you want to start your day off from a brain health standpoint, from joint support, gut support. MCT oil and collagen are two components, especially as we age, that are integral components to health. And so to be able to work with Bubs Naturals and be able to work with them and sponsor a product that number one is a high quality product, and number two is so near and dear to my heart and to the Mic Drop podcast for who it was started for and what it stands for. It's just it's an amazing place to be. So it is Whole30 approved. It's sports certified, so you're not going to run into any problems with that. And I will say that right now they're offering 20% 20% off if you go to bubsnaturals.com and use the Mic Drop code. So I really highly encourage you to try it out, incorporate it into your day-to-day for joint health, for brain health, for cognition, for gut health, and to support an amazing organization that does a lot of things in Glenn Bubs' honor. So go to bubsnaturals.com. Mic Drop is the code, 20% off. What was the experience of going to boot camp? And I'm assuming you went through all of kind of the standard infantry pipeline to get to that point. How was it going through it versus what you thought it was going to be?
I had a really strict dad. You know what I mean?
And he wasn't a vet ever, right?
No.
He was just a hard ass?
He was just he's just a hard ass dude. I mean, he's a great dude.
Yeah.
But nothing I experienced in boot camp scratched the level of if I pissed my dad off, like growing up. I mean, yeah. I mean, he was very, very, very strict, very stern. He had high expectations. And so I just had that we had that growing up. And you tell me what the expectation is, I'll give you what is expected. And I remember my dad told me, not being a vet, which is wild, he was impacted by some Vietnam vets, and his grandfather, my great-grandfather, was fought against the Japanese in World War II as an Army medic. And so he had, something of that. But he just told me, hey, they're going to make you paint a wall white, and when you paint it white, they're going to come in and tell you that it was supposed to be black, and everything is a game.
Yeah.
This is all a big game. Take it serious, but don't let yourself get overwhelmed by the fuckery, basically. And so I just went in with that mindset. And I was never like the most physically fit guy. I'd do the 3 mile I think in boot camp in like 19 and a half, maybe 20 minutes, which is okay, but it's not perfect and it's not the last, Pull-ups were always a hard thing for me. So instead of maxing out at 20, I'd get like 15. And that means you have to run really fast, so you just kind of balance that out. But boot camp, outside of the physical aspect of it, I treated it like a game.
Yeah.
Like I let my stomach tell me what time of day it was, and I would go from chow to chow, you know what I mean? And if you just kept that mindset, you break it up in 3 or 4 hour blocks instead of looking at the whole 12 weeks or whatever you're going to be there.
Yeah.
And put out, My dad, fortunately, or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, he was always like our coaches growing up. He didn't trust other people to do it right, I guess, which now I have a bit of that in me. But so there were high expectations, especially if your dad's a coach, like you're going to get it. Yeah. And so, yeah, boot camp wasn't hard. Like when I think about my service, I did so many other things that were emotionally and physically so difficult that when people ask me about, it's just hard for me. I don't have, there's funny things that happen, like seeing grown men piss themselves. That's funny.
Yeah.
Seeing people break for getting yelled at, to me, was funny. Shouldn't be funny, but it's almost sad now that I think about it. But at the time, it was funny to me,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a weird mob mentality that way, I think, whether it's boot camp or any type of tough selection process where human beings in a group have this weird mob, like, just going after fellow man in a strange way that way. Like it's the exact opposite of empathy. It's almost like, I mean, it's hard to kind of explain, I guess. But I saw some of that in Buds too, where like, like as a class even, we would hear the bell ring of somebody quitting and we'd fucking cheer, and so it's like, imagine.
Got another one.
Well, I mean, imagine being the person that quit, right? Yeah. You ring the bell and the class that you were just kind of, pseudo brother in arms with is now cheering the fact that you just quit. Like, that's got to fuck with you.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also like, and again, as an 18-year-old, I didn't really think much of it at the time. But looking back as a 45-year-old, it's like trying to wrap my head around kind of the human psychology behind it, not just, oh, that sucks, or that was funny, or, it's like, why do we do that? It's an interesting thing to think about. But going through infantry training and all of that, did anything kind of stand out as, being either memorable or challenging or anything? Or is it just kind of check the box?
Like I said, boot camp was easy. I was an honor grad in my class. I checked in, and so I didn't go straight to the fleet. As we talked offline, I went to basic security guard school, but for FAST company. But everybody has to go to the School of Infantry if you're an 03 designator. And so, man, I loved it. Like, you're going to pay me to do what? Run around the woods and train? I loved it. I did have a Fallujah, it's Fallujah 1 vet as a combat instructor, and his name was Jekyll, Sergeant Jekyll. And at night, we'd be bivouacking in the field or whatever. If we're in the bricks, then there would be that duty NCO. And when he had duty and was watching over us whenever we would sleep, he would break out letters that he wrote to his mother while he was over there. And man, that impacted me. Yeah. He's talking about losing his best friends. Boom, they're gone. Watching them blow up, watching them disappear, and then he would do like a tie-in with them. What's in it for us to know this? And he would tell us, this is what you need to know, because it doesn't stop there. You don't go home with that guy. You pick his body up. What pieces are left? You put them in a bag. Your friend, and then tomorrow you go on the next mission. And I always hoped that I would never be in that situation, but I was in that situation. I was in a situation where I was losing guys, and then you go out, and then you go again, and then you go again. And it's amazing because Marines and soldiers, they do that. And nobody talks about it, but that is no small feat to watch your brother get vaporized or watch your brother take one. One of our guys got strafed from his pelvic girdle to his face. And then that's it. You don't go to a funeral. You put him in a bird. You get your guys together and say, hey, tighten the fuck up. Let's go. And that's why I refer to our servicemen and women as national treasures. That's what they are. They'll do that for people that they don't even know and expect nothing from it. So, I don't know why I got off on that tangent.
Well, no, so it sounds like your instructor at that time was very impactful and used a lot of the lessons and experiences that he'd been through to benefit, you guys as students. Was it blatantly obvious, like right out of the get-go, even before you knew or he told you what he had been through? Was there something different about him?
Like, yeah.
Can you explain it?
I mean, I try to tell people it's in people's eyes. If you want to know if somebody's been to combat that's talking to you, look in their eyes and see if you can believe it, because there's something different in somebody's eyes. There's something different in the demeanor of a man who has been in the ultimate arena, not been at TQ. And that's not what I'm talking about. And this is no shade. I'm throwing no shade at anybody. But when you traded rounds with the enemy in a fight, you've been to Fallujah and you're street to street, you're clearing. You've been to a Marjah, you've been to a Ramadi, where you could see the eyes of your enemy. There's a whole different level of awareness. When you can see what one man will do to another man and you watch that, it changes you.
Yeah.
And it's in the eyes. You can tell it when you look at somebody. I can tell it when I look at somebody.
Yeah. Was there a single thing that he passed on to you that is memorable during
Just
it?
train. He made such a big deal about train. All you can do is train. And I didn't take that lesson until after I was not that person until I came home from that deployment. And I did 4 before that. But when you're there and you start losing people and they're under your command, all you can do is train.
Yeah. How long was it between when you finished infantry and then you went through, you said FAST after that?
Mm-hmm.
What was the pipeline after that? Did you go right to, or I guess walk us through your journey that way?
So after SOI, of course, I'm reeling because now I have to go to this other school. I got these buddies who are now going to go make Fallujah 2 happen. And I'm going to another school. So my guys all go to the fleet and they're getting put into combat replacement units and plussing up a unit to go back to, back into Iraq immediately. And I'm at this other school, learning more stuff, it was a blessing. I try to tell people that my career, even though it didn't start the way I wanted it to start, and I think a lot of guys can relate to this, I hit these necessary, unlikely things that I didn't have planned, but that made me good when I needed to be good. And so FAST was one of those. We got a shit ton of training in FAST. A lot of guys, they call them fake-ass SEAL team. They don't like us when we get to the fleet because we've been doing different stuff outside the vein of infantry. We haven't been deploying like them, but they do get a shitload of rounds. And so you will come out of that if you have a good command, which I did, heavy training command. We shot all the time, and we shot everything. I was cross-trained on 240, on the 50, everything from, M4s to the combat shotguns to the Beretta 9. I mean, we came out of that experts at all of that because it was just every single week we were in the field doing it. And then we got to go to Advanced Urban Combat School out of Chesapeake, Virginia, which is an amazing school, 2-story live shoot house, shooting steel on time, hostage situations on time, transitioning from primary to secondary on time. And so you come out of that school yoked, as far as CQB is concerned. Yeah. And the big reason for that is because when you're in FAST, you will get activated if there's like a embassy threat, and you're going to be going in to re-clear an embassy or hold an embassy. If you have a trap mission, something like that is in the vein or in the mission set of FAST. It just doesn't happen. People don't know how to use the company at the higher end. But that was great. I go into FAST up in Norfolk. I'm stationed with 3rd FAST, and they had 2 drug pops in the senior platoon. So you're supposed to have 24 months per your contract with them, but they had 2 drug pops. So myself and my roommate Chavez got put in 1st platoon when we were scheduled to go to 5th platoon. So that cut like 6 months off of our time there. So I was only there for 18 months. But we did a Cuba deployment. We did an RFDF out of Bangor. Just some added security for that. And then Cuba was cool. Nothing. It was a cool boot mission. I got to learn a lot, but we didn't do anything. We did some combat patrols. We'd have the Coast Guard take out their boats and insert us somewhere and patrol, which was really cool on the ground experience. And we went from there, closed out Cuba, and then we went on a embassy QRF mission to Bahrain. So we stationed right there in Bahrain. I think it's called Manama. It's one of the Navy bases right there. Yeah. And we were there for seven months, and we got a mission. It was when Israel and Hezbollah were feuding, and we went and did a non-combatant evacuation staged out of Cyprus, went over and took American citizens, floated them back, and got them out of that area, which was a cool mission. Again, no fighting. Took choppers over, refueled on Eisenhower. Squad went over and secured with the embassy. The strike group came in and commandeered a couple of ships, like a cruise liner and a ferry boat. And so then we put guns up on those and got people onto them and floated back over.
Yeah. It's still a real world mission, your first real world mission, right? Did you get kind of that cherry pop cotton mouth, holy fuck, this could go south? I mean, even though it's...
Yeah.
I mean, because it could, right?
It could,
It could turn into fucking Black Hawk Down, I mean.
It could have. And I don't think I was thinking about that.
Really?
So I didn't have it. I was just like, this is a bullshit mission kind of thing until I was on a 50. I think I was on a 50. And just kind of chilling. You got all these Americans down here. And they made us wear plain clothes because they didn't want an American face on it. And so even the guys that went over in the chopper in the other squad, they went in with a sea bag full of weapons down into the embassy.
Shaved face, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Freshly shorn,
no
polos tucked
beard.
in, belt. We look like Marines.
Civilian uniform.
Yeah, civilian uniform.
Yeah.
But I remember being on the float back in that ferry boat, and I'm on one of the guns, and I'm hearing, you're just listening to these people talk. A lot of them are scared. We had people that were fucked up from rockets coming in and shit. And you start hearing the people say, where the fuck are the Marines at? Why do we not have Marines here? And, you're not supposed to say anything. And then one of the engines blew up on our ferry boat. Boom! And that's when I thought we were hit. So that's when I got that cotton mouth. Oh shit! I didn't know if who knows what we got hit by.
Yeah. And
ended up being an engine, but everybody was scared. And that's when you started hearing people, "Where's the Marines?" This, that, and the other thing. And finally, we were all like, "Hey, we got you. You're okay. Yeah. You think these 50 cows belong to other people?" And then as soon as we came into the port in Cyprus, there was CNN and MSNBC, all these cameras, and so it was a feel good. It was like I was, I got that feeling of actually helping Americans, right? Because usually we're not. You don't get that feeling.
Yeah.
When you're in the sandbox, there's no other Americans. You don't feel like you're helping them. So that was a cool one.
Yeah, that was your first deployment. Technically, kind of.
Well, it's my first outside. Well, I went to Cuba before that, but it's the first real world.
So you did 24 months with the FAST?
Like 18.
Okay.
Because of those drug pops, so we missed the first 6 months of forming and shit.
Was that the last thing real world or operationally that you did with him? Then you came back home and then you went to a
3-2.
3-2.
Yep. 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines out of Camp Lejeune.
And from there, that's when you deployed to the Sandbox the first time.
Yep.
So this is your first deployment to the Sandbox. Did you go to Iraq or Afghanistan?
Iraq, yeah.
So what year was this? This was 06?
6, yeah. Well, 6 started work up probably like in 06 and 07, or in 2007.
Okay. So you're, 21, 22 years old?
20. I think I turned 21 when I was in 3-2.
Okay. What kind of shift was that going from FAST to regular infantry?
Well, the infantry is a different culture than anywhere. And when I was in FAST, even though we were all infantrymen, even though we were training as infantry, you don't have that Camp Lejeune River Road life. That's a different life. It was cool. I checked in as a corporal. Or no, I checked in and I picked up corporal very fast after I checked in. And one of the difficulties of that is that now I'm expected to lead an infantry squad because our op tempo was high and we weren't TO in any battalion. So you had, sometimes you had lance corporals as squad leaders. And so I took over a squad as a lance corporal knowing that I was picking up corporal. And so now I'm leading guys who were just on this last deployment to Iraq where they lost people, a Habaniya deployment. And so what I had was a bunch of lance corporals about to pick up corporal that thought they were taking the squad. And now I come in from FAST with no combat deployment. And now I'm placed in charge of them. And so that's a struggle, when you got to lead your peers, especially peers that maybe don't respect you or don't know you, and they thought that they were going to have a position that you have. That's difficult. So I had to face that through the entire workup. My first team leader, somebody who I'm friends with now, Richard Hernandez, and me and him kind of bumped heads. He wanted to do things one way. I would do things a different way. And I learned a lot with that squad. It was my first time having a squad, and you got to feel that out. There's things you can do right. There's things you can do wrong. And if you don't have any kind of mentorship and you have to just kind of slay through that yourself to figure out what works, it can be difficult.
Yeah. Did you get any of who the fuck are you? You haven't been to combat. I mean, were people that vocal about it?
Oh, fuck yeah. The entire way until I went to Iraq. with them as their leadership. And I think at that point, the respect started to come. I was always somebody who could stay very, very calm no matter what was going on. And some of the guys that gave me the hardest flack weren't the same.
Yeah.
And so when I was able to maintain, I think, a calm presence, it was like, okay, I think a little bit of respect grew.
Yeah.
But yeah, I dealt with that all the way till we deployed. I had team leaders of mine that belonged to me trying to tell me I needed to shave my head before we went to Iraq because I'd never been there. Things like that.
Yeah.
And it's just something you got to deal with, something you got to feel through. And
did you respond with like, how about you shave it for me and see how that goes for you, or something like that? Or
no, I didn't. Yeah, because being me, I wasn't the me that I am now.
Yeah.
And, I died 1,000 times since then to be who I am now. And I was cockstrong. I micromanaged that squad too much. Like I said, that was a squad that I had to feel through and find out who I'm going to be and who do I want to be as a leader and how do I want my squad relationship to be. And it sucks because I was junior. All of us were junior. And so it wasn't ideal. There was not a lot of experience. All the senior guys that came home from Iraq on that Habanea deployment essentially said, fuck this. And so there was a big washout, and now you have guys coming in, right? So by the end of that deployment, we were tight. We were tight in Iraq even. We did well over there. But I would say that I'm glad it wasn't that squad and me as a squad leader on that deployment.
Yeah.
That would have been different.
How was that first Iraq deployment operationally?
It was a big letdown for me.
Didn't do a lot?
No, I wanted a kinetic fight, and I wanted to go get them. And it was, all the good ones had died already is what I like to laugh about. By the time I got there, they'd killed the good ones or the bad ones, and all the good ones were left. And so they were very good in placing IEDs, as I'm sure you know. But that was the fight.
Yeah.
Pop shots, IEDs,
Tit for tat.
the occasional tick, but really nothing decisive, nothing more than a few, exchanges. So it just wasn't. I wanted to go get after it, and so coming back from that, it was just like I felt like I was chasing combat since I was in FAST, and everybody's doing these things, and then I get out of FAST, and it's my time to go over, and have a squad just really, put the hammer down, and I fired maybe 2 shots.
Yeah.
3 shots. Yeah.
Wow. All right. So you come back from that, and how long were you home before you went to? Before you continue the timeline, did the why that you talk about in the book that you read and kind of placing a higher importance on that now, which I do too, and didn't back then similarly. Did you ever find yourself thinking like, why are we in Iraq? Like, I wanted to join because of Afghanistan. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Was that ever in your mind?
No, not really. Yeah. I viewed Iraq as, there's a authoritarian regime that is doing bad things to its people. And, at the time, I think most people were operating under the impression that they had weapons of mass destruction. And it's like, hey, we're already over in the region, and, the region would be better without Saddam Hussein and his Ba'ath Party extremists. And it gave me a place to go fight.
Do you still feel that way?
There's a lot that's come out about WMDs and, things that the federal government knew and didn't know. I don't feel the same way, no, not about Iraq. And I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad that deployment was what it was. Guys didn't psychologically struggle with that one as bad as, some of the other harder fighting deployments. And now they don't have to sit back and wonder why their buddies are dead.
Yeah.
Guys that lost people in Ramadi and Fallujah, anywhere in Iraq, I'm sure in the back of their head there's something churning about that. But I would also say, like I try to tell guys, like, it doesn't matter what you think you did or you didn't do. what you did was you introduced Western ideals and the idea of freedom to people who never had that before, never had real freedom. And I'd say the same thing about Afghanistan. You know, we'll talk about it, but at least the fighting age males that are there that, you know, today, they have some sort of spark inside them that says, this is what it is, and you can have it, and we showed you that. Now, if they can't ever grow that, then okay, but you were there for your brothers to the left and the right, and you were there to show and oppress people what freedom is.
Yeah.
After that, it's on them what to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I maybe even reduce it even simpler to just say, like, you know, because I was in Iraq, not Afghanistan. And so, you know, for me, it was, hey, I volunteered to serve my country and give everything I had for them to decide, you know, the way they see fit. You know, however, to use me in that capacity. And you know, I did everything I could for myself and all of my teammates to come home. And that's it, you know, like.
And that's enough.
I agree. I mean, because why you're there and who decides and all that, that's out of your hands, period. You know, so you either roger up to fucking do what your country asks of you or you don't, you know. And I mean, to me, it really is that simple. Yeah. Because the slippery slope, I think, and not to get off on a tangent, but like if you use the metric of a tyrannical dictatorship who oppresses its people and is, you know, horribly fucking, I guess, brutal, either maintains weapons of mass destruction or is on the path to do it. Like, there's a lot of countries that, I mean, China, they have nukes. They're fucking terrible to their people. We don't do shit about that. For that matter, right next door, Iran, no fucking different. Like, they're on the brink of having a nuclear weapon. For that matter, they've killed thousands of Americans. You know, whether it's Hezbollah, Hamas, or even all of their incursions of using EFPs and shit in Iraq and helping them get IEDs. I mean, they have more American blood on their hands probably than any other fucking country.
Agreed.
And we haven't done a fucking thing about it, which honestly pisses me off. Like, I wish we would do more to Iran than we have. It chaps my ass to see, and I'm not going to use the term leaders. I will say the spineless jellyfish wearing suits that are in positions of fucking unfortunate authority, you know, that say things like "don't," you know, as being their warning, and you know, watching attacks happen and them doing basically fuck all about it really drives me nuts. I mean,
it bothers me that we hit an unmanned weapons and ammunition depot after there's been so many strikes out of proxy for Iran, and we know it.
Yeah.
And yeah, we don't have to go down that too far, but
that's a whole other episode. But
yeah,
at any rate, so you come back from that. It's kind of from an op tempo standpoint, kind of a letdown. You're home for a period of time, and then were the next two in Afghanistan, or
no? So only one after that. But I came home kind of butthurt. Let's just put it that way. That deployment went the way it went. And when they released, you know, what we were doing next, it was going to be a MEU. And I was like, I'm not doing a MEU.
Which is a Marine Expeditionary Unit, which boils down to being on a fucking boat for at least 6 months, but probably a year prior being on it for most of that time also.
Facts. And I looked at that as not appetizing. I was going through divorce from my first wife, and so it's like, man, you're going to go home to that? Because it was coming up on time if I needed to re-enlist or not in like a year. So I was trying to work through that. And instead of going on the MEU, I went and tried out for the all-Marine boxing team. They're on Camp Lejeune. I made it.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And then I fought for the Marine team. I went like 6-1 over 9 months.
Really?
And then I got called back to either re-enlist or get out with a career planner. Yeah.
Did you box at all growing up?
No.
No shit.
I fought a lot.
Yeah.
You know? I said, my brother was here, and I was like marijuana, alcohol fighting kind of thing. So,
but I mean, to be fair, street fighting versus trained, and you know, like what was the metric of testing for tryouts? Can you
fight?
I mean, that was it. Just put you in a fucking ring, and
yeah, basically we there was 2 guys at 172, which was going to be my weight. I showed up at the gym at like 185. He gave me 14 days to get to 171, or I wasn't going to make the team. I made it to 171, and then we trained like, I don't know how long it was, a month maybe or two. And then we had a fight at the Godage Field House over on Camp Lejeune. A bunch of people came, they put a ring in the middle. And so basically it was intramural. It was to solidify weight classes for the All-Marine team. And so I had to fight one of my friends from 3-2 who came with me and tried out, and I ended up winning.
On points, or did you knock him out?
No points. It's really hard to knock somebody out USAA boxing because you got the headgear on and you know on all that. But I ended up winning the fight, and then so I took 172, and then we fought. We went up to New Haven, Connecticut. We went to Boston. Basically, we did a Northeast tour of the United States, and I got beat on one of those fights, and then I won the rest of them.
The opponent were all of your opponents military members, or 0
of mine were.
No shit.
Yeah, they were out of little Boston Mick gyms.
No shit.
Guys that were on the USAA Open circuit or novice circuit, and then we had a couple of open fighters, and then they fought open fighters.
Was it age grouped also, or just weight?
Weight.
So they could have been 40-year-olds.
Yeah, but you don't see that very often.
I mean, you can still get down at 40.
I'm not saying you can't. I'm 37 and I could still fight, but my cardio wouldn't be the same, I don't think.
So all the guys you were fighting were within a few years of you, probably.
Yeah, I would say so. Some of them, I would say so. I'd say we were all right there along. I fought a Gold Glove from the Army, which was I fought one that wasn't on that tour, but I fought a Gold Glove from the Army, and he was a little older than me, I think.
Yeah. How did that go?
I beat him.
Really? Mm-hmm. Fucking bested a Golden Gloves guy.
Well, it wasn't a Golden Glove tournament, but I like to say I took his.
Yeah.
So.
Do you know what you hear that term thrown around a lot? I mean, to me, the dog parallel would be champion lines in fucking newspaper ads, right? Like you hear, oh, he's a Golden Gloves. Like, do you know what the fuck that means? Can you?
It's like a Golden Glove tournament, and you win it.
So that's it. It's just
as far as I know.
Yeah.
I mean, they say, hey, that was a Golden Glove champion from Army last year that you beat, and I'm like, does that mean I'm a Golden Glove? Well, no, I was seeing a Golden Glove tournament, but so I assume that's what it is. I never looked too far into it.
Who was the one guy that beat you?
Don't remember his name. He was. I beat his training partner the next day. Who was supposed to be the guy that was the better out of the two of them. And it was a situation where I messed up. I mean, you got your slips and your ducks, and I slipped when I should have ducked, and he caught me right on the button on the back of my head, and it was a wrap after that. Like the whole canvas started looking like the ocean, and like my legs went out, were like wobbly, and my coach threw in the towel.
Yeah.
So that's probably my first Marine Corps concussion. Was on the boxing team. I threw up for like 2 weeks for no reason.
No shit.
Oh yeah.
Wow. That's interesting. So on the all Marine boxing team, you guys are fighting out of Lejeune. Mm-hmm. What was the training regimen like? I mean, was it like being a professional athlete where that's pretty much all you did?
I would say so. I mean, I've never been a professional athlete outside of being a Marine, but it was 3 sessions a day. 4 if we were working up for a fight. So you'd show up at like 7 in the morning, you'd get like a 3-mile run in, and then we would do like quick twitch muscle work, just, firing your muscles as quickly as you can from top to bottom. And then we would come, you'd leave. It'd be like a 2-hour deal, and then you'd leave, come back like, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever was posted for us. And it would be, like a full gym workout, no sparring, but full gym. So like shadow box, speed bag, rhythm bag, upper bag, jump rope. We'd jump rope for like an hour at the start of that practice. Yeah. Literally, our coach had a track of Lil Wayne music for an hour that we had to jump to.
Your favorite?
And I was like the one of 2 white guys on the boxing team. I don't mind Lil Wayne, but for an hour. Yeah. So you'd do that, and then you'd get into whatever we did body hardening. So you'd lay there and on the edge of the ring, and you would like do different workouts to build your neck muscles for your chin, to have a better chin. And then while you're doing that, guys are standing over you, punching you in the abs, until you get done with however many counts. So there's some of that. But after that practice, you go home and you come back, and we'd do a sparring session. And if it was a workup, we'd come back after that and do a second one.
Yeah. Wow. So you had 7 fights in a year period, 9 months?
7, yeah.
So almost almost fighting once a month then.
Yeah, but it wasn't like that. It was like I fought that one to get the weight class, and then we trained for like 3 months to go on that tour, and I fought the other 6 on that tour.
Okay.
Or the other 5 or 6 on that tour.
Yeah. All at 172, 171.
And like our coach was really particular. You couldn't have any nicotine. You couldn't drink. The only time you could drink was if you won your fight. You could drink that night as celebration, but you couldn't get drunk. If he found you, like even out in town, he caught a guy that was smoking a cigarette on his way into Walmart. Boom, he was gone from the team.
Wow.
And he had the power to be able to do that. But I appreciated that too because it kept me pure. I'd eat like chicken and eggs almost exclusively. And because I had to, if I ate any junk, I would go above my weight. And if you ever came into practice and you were even an ounce above your weight, you were done.
Your fighting weight?
Yeah.
So you had to stay at that weight?
So I operated at like 170. I never fucked with it.
Yeah.
You know, and then after I'd weigh in for a fight, they'd have like a big wrap bar, and I'd just dumb a bunch of, calories and probably fought at 172, but I'd always come in under it.
Yeah. So, but even when you're training, that entire like tour, you had to stay at your fighting weight
The entire time.
Wow.
From the time I got that first 2 weeks to get down,
yeah,
through the rest of it, we weighed every single day.
Oh, wow.
And you would go away, yeah.
Damn. How many guys were on the team?
I think like a dozen.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Was it all walks of the Marine Corps?
Yeah, I was the only grunt.
Really?
Yeah.
Everybody else was...
Actually, Jamel Herring just won the WBO belt a couple of years ago on Veterans Day. His name is Jamel Semperfi Herring. Shout out. He was on the team with me. He got out. He was like he was a poke, but he spent most of his time on the Marine Corps boxing team. So, he did his thing. Then he led the USA team to the Olympics, and then he turned pro. Won and defended it once or twice, and then lost, and now he's on his way back up. But Ken Norton, legendary boxer that broke Muhammad Ali's jaw, started on the Marine Corps boxing team as well. There's a lot. There's a lot there that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
Like as far as history, but
yeah. No, that's a neat chapter for sure. So better part of a year you do that. What was the deciding factor that made you leave there and go back to?
Had to.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, had to. I was coming up on my EAS time, and the career planner called me up and he said, we can just EAS you straight out of there. You can come back and re-enlist. I wanted to re-enlist, so I came back to 3-2, and I was in their RBE because they were out on the MEU now or training for it. And I went to the career planner and I said, "You got anything heating up? I want to go. I've missed everything. I've been on the team. I'm ready to get back in it." And so I think there was something going on with a PSD for one of the somebody, and they said, "Just hang out here. I'm gonna get you on this PSD." And they had some bonuses going on at the time, so I elected to do the operational forces bonus, and then sometime shortly after I signed the paperwork is when President Obama approved the troop increase in Afghanistan for Stanley McChrystal, and so it was like they're going to send the next battalion over, right? The most ready battalion, and that was 3-6.
Oh, okay.
And so he said, "You're going to 3-6." I said, "What about the PSD?" He said, "You want it? You're going to get it here." And went to 3-6 in September of 2009, and we deployed January 2 or something.
Yeah. Coming from the boxing team back to an infantry unit, did all of the guys that you worked with, were they aware that you had just come from the boxing team?
Yeah, I mean, I told them.
Did any of them try you? They were be like, "Oh, let's see what you got." Or anybody fuck with you that way?
No, not really, because you had a situation where 2 of the squad leaders were good to go on the MEU, and as soon as the orders changed to be a combat deployment into Stronghold of Marjah, they decided they were going to go ahead and get out. And so they worked these 2 squads up the entire way as the squad leader going to deploy with them, and then when it changed, they bailed. And so I took over a squad, and that squad didn't have a choice, right? I was a sergeant. And they were a good squad. They were trained well, but they didn't have anybody that was going to fill that billet. That was even close to as experienced, I guess. And they didn't have somebody step up.
Yeah.
And so they pulled me, put me in charge, And, I'm still learning my guys' names on the one field op we got before we left. And, I was better, though. I had the fuck-ups in that first squad. I learned what not to do. And so I just eased in. Hey, you guys have been trained. I'll make corrections where I see fit, but I'm going to assume that you're already good to go. And then they showed that to me over that period of 3 months that they were good to go. And then we pushed out. So,
did you have a feeling prior to going that this was going to be a different operation or a different deployment?
That hit me in Camp Leatherneck. Every deployment that I did before that, from Bangor to Cuba, the little thing over in Bahrain and then Iraq, everything was a dry hole. Said you're going to get all this stuff, or you're going to do these things in Iraq. None of that came true. It was always overestimated, which, and now in my life, I appreciate that. And so I just went into it like, yeah, we're going to the place and we'll see what happens, But then there were CIA in on briefs and plainclothes Marines rolling with CIA, shaping the city. And they come in telling us numbers that they anticipated and showing us video imagery of checkpoints and minefield, IED fields and such. And when that happened, I was like, okay, this is no bullshit.
Yeah.
This never happened before. I never had to get a pseudo top secret clearance for a brief before.
Yeah.
And so at that point, things were different.
Yeah. You guys you flew into Kandahar?
Yeah.
And then
I think, and to be honest with you, I don't know where we flew in first. We might have came straight down to Leatherneck from, I think we came straight to Leatherneck from Kazakhstan.
Oh, okay.
Maybe. I can't remember if I'm being honest. I know we flew commercial there, and then, I think we took like C-130s down into Leatherneck from up there.
Oh, okay.
But I don't quote me on that.
Yeah. So what was the, I guess the pace or op-tempo schedule like when you first got to Leatherneck, you start getting these briefs? How long until you actually went outside the wire and started getting it?
We had that first couple of admin weeks. It was probably 2 weeks at Leatherneck, and then we got shipped. We flew down to Dwyer, and we were staged at Dwyer, and we went outside the wire and built a range to pop everybody's cherry and just make sure weapons were good. We wanted to fire some APOBs because we were packing them in, and a lot of guys hadn't seen them or fired them. And we got our Army or our Afghani Army attachments there, so we wanted to get out and operate with them one time at least before, going in. And so we did that, and then they flew us back up to Leatherneck because that's where the Hilo-borne invasion went out of, and we were helicopter company. So we flew out of Leatherneck, and I think the 13th, 12th or 13th of February, and landed in the heart of northern Marjah at like 3 a.m.
At that point and leading up to that, again, talking about kind of the why as to you're there and what the overall scope of the mission set is, not just, hey, we're doing fucking recon by fire, but it's like, hey, there's this group. How much of the in the weeds details were you privy to prior to going out?
I was a squad leader, so I was, as far as our platoon was concerned and our company was concerned, we got great orders, detailed imagery. They showed us a couple of machine gun bunkers with, T-shaped, T-wall barriers on top, 6 ports apiece, firing steps. They showed us, they told us the vicinity of the area that would be, though they weren't certain.
But I guess as far as like the 30,000 foot view, to me that sounds great on a tactical level, but from like a big picture operational level, was there anything communicated to you as to who you were fighting, why they were there, what the overall kind of scope of the mission was?
As far as what they told us, it was the last Taliban stronghold in Helmand province, and we were looking for C2 nodes to destroy that, and our objective as a platoon, company and platoon under that, was to seize and control MEB Objective 2, and that was supposed to be the lead IED bomb maker C2 node, all in one area down there. And So that's what we focused on.
Did you know about how many enemy fighters were expected in the area?
They said 8 to 1,200.
And how many of you were there total?
I mean, a lot. I mean, it was our battalion.
Which is how many?
1/6's battalion, like 1,000 probably.
So there were
I mean, give or take. There's attachments and different things, but and then you had a couple Kandaks of Afghan army guys. Then you had the Brits who were above us. There was a lot of different moving pieces and a lot of people.
Yeah.
Not in my area specific, but going to that whole
area to stomp it out.
Yeah.
First time going out, actual shit goes down. Walk us through that.
And the helicopter landed. And I had my nods down, and I just seen oh my God, amount of like debris in the air, and I couldn't. Everything slowed down for me. Like when things would be dramatic, my whole brain would slow down, and I seen all this debris, and I'm thinking in my head like, what the fuck is that? And it was water. They had flooded the LZ. They got lucky. And it was horrible.
I mean, so they assumed that that's where you would land, and
I assume, yeah. You know, there's a lot of irrigation canals and such in that area for their poppy and in the marijuana fields and different things, and they flooded them out. And 10 meters in any direction, if that chopper would have moved, we on dry ground. But for whatever reason, we landed right in it. And
how deep was it?
Like I almost lost a Marine.
No shit.
Almost lost like a Marine. I had a saw gunner, Travis Vicolo, shout out. And when I seen him, his face was almost going under. You know, because you could picture 50 guys coming off of like a chopper, and they just go onto each other. Like when I stepped off, my foot went probably almost to my knee. And then all these guys, because we've been doing these sexy on-off drills and training, are flooding out. And it just became like this clusterfuck of weapons that now can't fire and dudes that are stuck. We lost a small rocket in a backpack because it just ate it.
Yeah.
It was a shit show. And as soon as that happens, the chopper drops us and he goes up, and we can see technical vehicles like less than a click to our south, bop, 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 and tracers going up at the birds. And I'm like, okay, it's not a dry hole. Get the fuck moving, and we're trying to be quiet. And then we had an AC-130 circling, and they were dumping out these like 55-gallon barrels full of IR, and it would light up like a square click. I think it's like 700 by 700 technically, but the whole battlefield was light. And I'm kind of lost in this, and he calls down to our JTAC and says, hey, be prepared to defend yourself. You have an enemy platoon coming from the north. And I looked to the north. He had his shit on blast. I looked to the north, and it had those big round hay bales, out in the field. And there was dudes with RPGs and dudes with machine guns. And I'm like, holy fuck, all right. I had 3 operating weapons at the time, mine, my platoon sergeants, and my first team leader.
What were they? What were you carrying?
I had an M4.
Is that what the other two were?
Those two had an M4, yeah.
So not big guns either.
No. And everybody else is trying to scrub mud out of their shit. And as soon as I seen him, I said, we got to get something now. So he brought Cobra section gunship section in, cleared them hot, and just as these gunships are coming down, the front guy, the point man of that supposed enemy element, turns on his IR flicker, and we're like a movie, abort, countermeasures, and I'm just standing there in this mud, like, because that was our partnered A&A force who forgot to turn on their IR flicker. So that was how the first 2 minutes opened up. After the sun came up, our first objective was to hold this land bridge. Had an IED on it that we could see. We got to our foothold. We're checking it out. We had to hold that land bridge because another platoon was going to clear the little city in front of us of Shinnywall, and we had to make sure that the MSR didn't backfill. We're watching the MSR, make sure they didn't backfill guys from our side. And then after they finished their clear, we would suck to them and kind of leapfrog them up to the next spot. So while we were doing that, I went out with the engineers to check the composition of the bridge so that we could set an APOB off over that IED and SIMP-det it so that we had a clear path. And they opened up on us from where we landed back to the north, and it was on after that.
Were the guys that had malfunctioning weapons, were they back online yet, or were a lot of them still down?
So I guess I skipped that. Yeah. So at 3:30 in the morning, after all the Cobras get called off, our A&A, we figure out who they are. We make a movement from our LZ up to that land bridge intersection. And we get in, we kick the people out, and they had a freshwater well in their courtyard, which is insane to me because not every place did. Very rarely did you find that. And it had a bucket and everything. So as soon as we got in, everything was cleared. The boys started pulling up buckets of water and just getting all the weapons clean. That took like a very short amount of time. Everybody had cleaning kits, punched everything through. The outsides might have looked a little bit muddy, but the inners were good to fire. And so, so before the sun even came up and before I even went out to check the bridge with the OD, everybody was up, everybody was posted. Our whole platoon was then co-located. So we had like 3 or 4 compounds that we were holding on this intersection. So everybody was good then.
So when you say us, how many people is that?
As far as the platoon?
Yeah. I
mean, a platoon's 40 something depending on what you got. And then we had attachments. We had the fire support team. We had weapons guys. We had a mortar team, assault team. So you're probably looking at, 60 guys around about.
Yeah. Okay. And how far away were the nearest other units?
To our south, maybe Click, and then to our to our direct front was where the platoon was clearing Shinny Wall, and 500 meters first building, and there.
So another 40, 60 guys up there.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So at that point, it hadn't really gone south in terms of being fired on, really, right?
Not yet.
Not yet. But it was about to.
Yeah, right then.
Yeah. So the sun comes up, you guys start moving north.
Well, no, we weren't moving. We had to hold that intersection as a mission, but I wanted to get out to the bridge and have the APOBs in place. That way, if we had to make, movement across to support them, the ID was already handled. You pop smoke, let it simp det, and then on we can go.
Can you explain APOB for the viewer?
So that's an anti-personnel obstacle breaching system. And I don't know what it has. It's a 2 backpack system, and it has a rocket, a little fire that, kind of D-ring to a whole strand of engineer tape that has like 100 and some odd frag grenade type explosives in it. And so you pull the smoke on it. You got like 7-8 seconds to get back before the rocket, little firing takes off, and it's going to stretch that whole line of explosives in a line, in a straight line. And then another 5-8 seconds, boom, everything blows up. So you're going to simp det anything that's there, sympathetically detonate anything that's, there around it explosive wise. But it's supposed to give you a 3 to 4 foot wide path, obstacle and explosive free, so that you're not going to step on an ID going.
What's the maximum distance that you can clear with one?
I don't know. It's long. They have bigger ones on the trucks and tanks called Mikliks that are much longer. But I don't want to mess this up. Probably 50 feet, 60 feet. It may be even longer than that.
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. All right. So you guys are pushing out, getting ready to handle that, and then what? So
fire erupts from the north as we're trying to, situate this. And what was cool about my building that my guys were in was that because of poppy harvesting over there, they would stack them. They would stack like the old dry stems for kindling and firewood or whatever. But they would stack them up the wall, and that there was this perfect ramp leading up to like a firing position inside this courtyard. And so I grabbed my guys, my little security team, we haul ass back in. As soon as I come into my courtyard, I just run up that ramp, and I had John Simmering, one of my saw gunners, a corporal, had him with me. I run up the ramp, and as soon as I'm looking to the north, there's 2 guys, Soviet block machine gun style weapons running through this tree line. And I always packed a lot of tracers. I was tracer heavy as a squad leader because I'm trying to mark targets more than I shouldn't be firing a whole bunch. Ideally, I should be marking for the squad. And so I came up, I thought the guy was about 300. I got the Chevron 300 on him, whoosh, and I seen it hit his feet, like at his feet. And when it did, he just kind of looked up like that. And so I put the 4 right on his chest, boom, and he folded, and then I hit him 2 or 3 more times, boom, boom, boom. So he's still reaching for his weapon. And as soon as he kind of expired, his buddy took off running to the north, and John Simmering hit him with like a 8 to 10 round burst of that saw, and boom, he folded. Now there's people over to the north firing at us that we can't ID. We don't know exactly where they are. And all I could think was follow that tree line north. They had to be running somewhere they felt safe. They had to be going back to safety. And so I follow that tree line north, and back about a click or so, there's a building with like 4 or 5 dudes, black man jam standing on the second story. So I instantly spin up a fire mission. And it's cool because there's video footage of the mortar section right here, and then you could hear me come over the radio, give the fire mission, and then you see them boom, boom. And that was really cool. That was the opening. So once we put mortars back on those guys, I can't say that we had a direct hit, but we hit close enough that they weren't on that top of that building anymore.
Yeah.
And that firefight raged. I want to say, we killed a lot of the guys in little rat lines and little canal lines between us and that 2-story building those guys were on.
Which is a distance of about what?
So 400 was the first couple of guys I hit, and it was probably right around that 300, 200 range out.
Okay.
Out, and then that first day, and probably in that deployment in general, 200 or 300, 400 was about average where they would expose themselves. Now we got in on them closer than that, but when they wanted to fight, it was at that range.
Yeah.
And then when we closed, they'd bounce back.
So you guys are taking down a handful or possibly even several dozen guys over how long of a period that day?
I mean, it didn't stop until night. We dropped a 500-pound bomb on a compound. I got to videotape it, which was pretty cool. But guys just to the south of us dropped a big one on a compound. They had several guys inside of. They fought all the way, pinned them in there, and it was one of the situations where if they squirted out without a tunnel, you'd have seen them.
Yeah.
And so they called that in. The aircraft came in and popped 2 times, couldn't tally. 3rd time tallied. And then when they dropped that bomb, the battlefield went quiet. There was a lull for quite some time. And I talk about it in the book. I would later discover that long-range weapons, they didn't understand them. Even a SAS, even a sniper that's got a 50 cal way out and can touch them, they didn't understand that. They didn't understand fixed-wing aircraft and bombs just showing up. They did understand choppers, but they didn't understand the rest of that stuff. HIMARS rockets I launched on them, they didn't understand that.
By not understand, do you mean that they would cease fighting out of confusion?
Yep.
And
it would freak them out, like, what was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long would these cessations in fire last? Would it vary?
It varied, yeah, depending on the day and probably depended a lot on the Taliban commander that was in charge. We intercepted so much of their traffic with our people that we knew where they were, we knew who they were talking to, and we knew that they were confused about these long-range systems.
Yeah.
But, that lull, we dropped that big one on the first morning, and that lull stretched into real close to dark for us. Now, there was other platoons still fighting up in front, but that situation back here calmed down for the last couple hours of daylight.
Yeah. And then did it pick back up? Or did you
So we owned the night, and I think that's something they did understand. Once it became nighttime, visibility was out. We put the nods on, and E-Man, my platoon commander, said, "Hey, let's wake them up." And we hit that damn APOB, dual APOBs. Got the SEMPDET, and then and we traveled across and met up with the company up in Shinnywall. And then I think we slept for a couple hours that night. My guys did. I didn't sleep at all. It's very strange. I talk about it in the book, like my body wouldn't sleep. And that happened for a couple of days. Then my body crashed.
Yeah. So how long was that entire engagement? Several days?
I mean, in Marjah, we were engaged. We were engaged 6 to 8 hours a day, every day for probably the first 20 days. Or no, maybe 14.
I mean, was that an extension of that?
Yeah.
Okay. So
like we landed, they were mad. I mean, we landed in their backyards, and then the rest of the ISAF elements circled the city and pushed them in at us. So you had 1-6 Bravo, Southern Marjah proper, 3-6 Kilo, Northern Marjah proper, and then everybody else, they didn't have
squeezing.
They couldn't get out. It was like a fire sack, literally.
Yeah.
You know, they'd bounce from us to them. So yeah, like it was wild. Second day, sun comes up to the sound of 240s and Soviet blocks trading rounds, RPGs, mortars. And I liken it to the Marine Corps commercial where like the guys get off and they're just running into the fight. That's literally what we did that day. We came out, we banged left, and the fight was in front of us, and we could hear the other platoons just getting after it and calling in air and calling in this, and you could hear all that. And we're in a tactical column patrolling that way. You see, like there's some buildings that we can't see the battle yet, you know, and then gave the order to pick it up because guys were getting hurt on our team or getting, things were getting a little more intense for them. And I just remember, giving the call to pick it up, and everybody just started running in a tactical column straight at them.
Yeah. So this is the second day.
Yeah, it's morning too.
And you guys stayed in that posture and area for 20 days-ish.
Well, more than that, but it was hot for about that long. Yeah.
Okay.
I want to say we came in the 13th. Since 20. Yeah, a couple of weeks of just all out getting after it.
Were you guys being resupplied regularly, or how were you getting food and water and bullets?
Well, yeah, we had to get resupplied. We ran out of food. They said we would take our objective in the first day, so we took 3 days worth of food. It took us 3 or 4 days of fighting to take our objective. That's how much resistance in that first 4 days happened. And it was only 3 clicks we had to move, but they were hitting us, we were hitting them. And so it was wide open, but we ran out of food quick. Guys are burning calories under kits, and so we called in a resupply, I don't know, like the 3rd day or something, and Dash 1's got water, Dash 2's got food, and they almost took Dash 2 out of the sky. Couldn't even drop the food. He had to bail out. They dropped the water, and like probably the first couple thousand bottles on the bottom just blew up, and that became like a water retrieval mission in the middle of a field. And then honestly, we didn't get food until they were trying to open up the ground line of communication, and until the Glock got open, we didn't have MREs and stuff come in. So we raided the bazaar. We took our objective, and it had everything. It had 2 mutually fortified machine gun bunkers, a C2 node. It had all kinds of like OE antennas coming up out of it, and we took all of that. And that was a fight. That was day 3.
So was day 2 about like day 1, or was it even more intense?
It was more intense.
Were there any instances of you guys taking casualties on day 2?
No.
So it was pretty lopsided. It was intense, but you guys were kicking ass.
We fucked them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ballpark of how many fighters in your guys' for your platoon, the engagement of how many guys you were going against to
I think that's just really hard to say because they were pockets acting like teams, almost guerrillas, right? So you'd have a pocket up here, and it might have 5-8 guys in it. So a little baby squad, but a baby squad with a sniper and a machine gun can hold you on a battlefield in certain ways until you locate them. But I would say on day 2, it was probably somewhere in the 50 to 100 fighters, maybe more. It's just hard to say how many were moving and.
Were you guys doing any type of battle damage assessment? Checking the bodies and seeing what they had on them and any of that kind of stuff?
When we could. One of the big mind fucks that I would assume they did it on purpose, and I'm just going to give them that because they weren't all stupid. And they would police up their body and the bodies and the brass and the weapons very quickly. At first we didn't know what they were doing. They were bringing in like white vans that was like their ambulances. And when we found out that was Taliban fighters coming, to retrieve or help out other Taliban fighters, we started blowing those up. But they were very good about policing that shit up. So we would get excited when we closed on them fast enough to get weapons, which in the beginning was more than later because, like I said, there was average engagements might have been 200 to 300, 400 sometimes, but in the beginning, it was closer than that.
Yeah,
sometimes. So,
did you find anything that surprised you on any of the battle damage assessment stuff?
I found a guy, a foreign fighter card. It was a laminated tight, you know, professionally done foreign fighter card, and it had Pashtun Wali on the one side, and it had like a Syrian dialect of Farsis on the other side, or some kind of other language. And so they had a whole system of reinforcements and of putting special people in. You come to the border, you know, somebody hits you, you give them your foreign fighter card because you don't speak the same language. They turn it over, they read where you're supposed to go and who you are, and they take you into it. And intel came out of that foreign fighter card. So I thought that was cool.
Any special weapons or crazy weapons that
a Dragunov one time, I think we recovered from a sniper, but it didn't have like your regular Dragunov scope. I wouldn't say anything weird. I mean, no, yeah. I don't think so.
Anything particularly grisly? I mean, it's all grisly to a certain extent, but anything that stood out?
You mean that they had on them, or that stood out?
Just that you came across.
Oh man, I watched a guy disappear one time. That was in the beginning time. We were trying to like build up our cops now, a combat outpost, and you know, the people there are so fucked. You know, like, and that's the thing you think about later when you grow up. Like, they're just stuck between a rock and a hard place. The regular people. Yeah. Now you got the Taliban, but they would send in night riders, is what we ended up calling them. And they'd be like, they'd come in the middle of the night, either on a bicycle or on a moped or whatever. They would bring an IED and instructions to a farmer, take his women and children, and say, you don't do it, we're going to rape and kill all of them, cut their heads off. This is where we want it. We want it there tomorrow by this time. And any father's going to do that. You have to do that. And it's admirable. But any Lance Corporal Marine's going to fucking smoke you, which is also admirable. And so they're still like, you're going to kill my guys if you put that in. I know that. I have to execute, you know, I have to execute a mission to kill you. If you don't do it, they're going to behead all your women and children and your family. And so they're so fucked. But it was a guy that clearly didn't know what he was doing. I was watching him from about 1,200 meters out. He was on a road we call Route Cathy. And he was trying to put an IED in and went away, you know, went all the way away.
What'd you hit him with?
I didn't hit him.
Oh, he blew himself up. I gotcha.
He just went away.
Yeah, like he really didn't know what he was doing.
You know, or he fucked up.
Yeah.
But to, you know, when you see a body, and I'm doped in on him because I was going to hit him.
Yeah.
And I'm doped in and it's just like, that's shocking. Like, if you've never seen that, that can be shocking. Yeah. Our weapons are amazing. HIMARS rocket system is insane.
Do you know what the specs are on it?
I know we fired them from Leatherneck into Marjah. I think they have a max distance of like 90 clicks.
Holy shit.
Accurate to within 1 yard on a 10-digit grid.
Damn. What are they fired from? Is it, I mean,
we might have to pull it up. I was always on the receiving end, but I think it's like a truck. Man.
I got you.
You know, I'm not.
Do you know what the explosive weight is?
No clue.
No idea.
I just know it looked like the hand of God split the clouds, and whatever it hit was
fucking gone.
Yeah. Yeah. On that second day, you know, not too much. Killing doesn't fuck me up. Killing the right people doesn't fuck me up. But on that day, on that second day, third day, we're trying to take care of this. Third day, we hit that bunker system. But on that second day, they hit one of my saw gunners. They were masking sniper fire in small arms. So it'd be like, pat, 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 wah, pat, 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 wah. So he was taking well-aimed shots amongst other people with small arms, and caught one of my saw gunner, Vocolo, caught it through and through the shoulder. With
a sniper round? Probably.
It could have been small. I mean, I think it's 7.62. Yeah. So you can call it what you want to call it. I think it was one of those heavier projectiles. Anyway, he gets hit, and that was the first time that anybody in my direct command had been hurt ever. And I took that extremely personal. It's like I didn't get scared. I got very angry, though. I get him patched up, and I hit LT up. I'm like, LT, what do we got? And he's like, we got all of it. I'm like, roger that. So I ran, and we were under pretty heavy fire at this point. I ran back through a couple openings to find the fire support team leader. He's a lieutenant, and he was like ducking down behind some walls and stuff. And I just grabbed the vector dagger from him. Boom, hit the compound, gave it back, ran up to my guys. And then after that, I don't know what happened. All I know is somebody called for fire with a HIMAR, and a HIMAR came. HIMAR hit the wrong building. Like 14 women and children come out of it on fire.
God damn.
Missing arms, missing legs.
Who called that shot in?
That's why I said I don't know what happened after that, because that's a company command authorization. I gave them the building. I gave them why. My guys are getting hit. It's time to fuck them up. And then it was a big deal. And I don't know still to this day how that got fucked up so bad. The bottom line is it got fucked up.
Yeah.
And these kids, and it was 7 women and I think 5 kids. They were all under the age of 6, and they got hit by the hand of God, and they come out fucked up. And we launched my CO launched a group and had a mass casualty evacuation lined up, come get them, and we couldn't get to the ground with it because they're shooting so many fucking rockets at it. And so I struggle with that.
Did that impact you right when it happened, or did
No,
you?
I said, fuck them. They shouldn't have been there. And that emotion is what haunts me. And so all my guys got out but him, and man, I just fell apart. Mad, screaming.